Ya Ali Madat, and welcome to the Ismailis Women's Committee for Kenya's youth session in honor of the International Day of the Girl Child. My name is Safia Abji, the founder of a development consulting and coaching practice based in Nairobi, Kenya, as well as an alumni of the Aga Khan Foundation for East Africa, where my work was focused primarily on civil society, youth, and livelihoods. I am honored to be the moderator of today's session with two very inspiring youth from East Africa. Alyssa Jamal, 15, from Kenya, who is currently a grade 10 student at Aga Khan Academy, Mombasa. She's also the founder of Assistive Innovations for Cerebral Palsy, or AICP, which we will learn more about in this conversation. And Zian Virji, 18, from Tanzania, who is the founder and CEO of Affordable and Accessible Sanitation for Women, or AASW, an organization founded on the premise of impacting women who do not have access to sanitary pads. He is also an alumni of Aga Khan Academy, Mombasa. This session hopes to inspire you, regardless of your age, geography, and circumstances in life, and help us all better understand what it takes to truly live our lives from the inside out. During this time of COVID-19, we have witnessed and experienced many changes and often hardships, but where there is difficulty, there is also opportunity. This is what I've learned from Alyssa and Zia and myself during our conversations together. So without further delay, let's get started with getting to know them a little bit better. Let's start with you, Alyssa. You're quickly becoming an inspiration to many, especially the youth. Help paint the picture for us. What have you achieved in just a few short months with both your organization and personally?
So it's been 2 months since I created my product Hand Splints for my personal project at the Aga Khan Academy in Mombasa, and I have been blessed to have been recognized for my project. My project is called AICP, which stands for Assistive Innovations for Cerebral Palsy. And the main goal of my project was to recreate an assistive tool for children with cerebral palsy using locally available materials such as kikoi, wood, and Velcro that are easily accessible and affordable. I decided to recreate an assistive tool for these children because I wanted to make a difference in their lives. I also wanted to create fairness between the privileged and the marginalized communities who can't afford these tools. These children require these tools along with physical therapy. I strongly believe that development is only possible when there is fairness. I have received excellent comments and feedback from my teachers, my friends, and my families for my project, and it has opened doors for many opportunities through which I'm able to reach out to many people and spread awareness about my project. I am learning new things and expanding my social network. For my project, I do not want to just create a hand splint for my exhibition, but I also wanted to know if it will assist a cerebral palsy child. So I decided to make one more hand splint and give it to an Ismaili boy who I met during my voluntary service called Azan Natha, who is a cerebral palsy child. Azan's mom was very happy with my hand splint, as she mentioned in her comments that the hand splints are of very high quality and definitely assist Azan as part of his daily therapy program. This, for me, was very satisfying.
Thank you so much. It's inspiring to learn how a personal project transitioned into something that is not only your passion, but dare I say your purpose. I look forward to learning more about the experiences that supported this transition during our discussion today. All right, same to you, Zian. You've accomplished a lot, not just professionally, but also personally. Before we learn more about your story, please tell us about your organization, how it all started, and what you've achieved to date.
So my journey started at the Khan Academy Mombasa, similar to Alisa. It was 3 years ago where I had the opportunity to start up a personal project. During that point in time, I was scrolling through my Facebook feed and I watched this really inspiring documentary on Al Jazeera named India's Menstruation Man. That was one of the first times I learned about menstruation and periods because we live in a community that unfortunately thinks periods and menstruation is a taboo. So I had a conversation with my mom about it, and she told me that when she was small, she also didn't have proper access. And similar to her, when I did my research, around 500 million menstruators around the world don't have access to menstrual products. What this means is that they use old rags, cloth, leaves, blankets, and some of the most unsanitary material in their period. Keeping all that in mind, it inspired me to start ASW, which stands for Affordable and Accessible Sanitation for Women. And primarily, what we aim to do is create a world of menstrual equity. We do this by producing and distributing reusable sanitary packages and providing a sustainable model of approach in which we aim to empower the menstruators we work with. To date, we have given access to over 4,500 menstruators. We've worked in 7 different countries, and we have a team of over 100 youth volunteers. Through this journey, I've found my purpose, and that has inspired me to be part of a few other projects as well. So currently, I'm the outreach director at an organization called Climate Cardinals that aims to make the climate movement more accessible by translating climate information into over 100 languages. I'm also a director at Helping Hands Tanzania, which is a COVID-inspired project. We started off with providing PPE, but currently does a lot of other developmental projects. I've had the opportunity to travel around the world and share my story. I've done public speaking in 6 different countries. I co-host a podcast called Second Impressions, and my work has reached over 50,000 people. I've also been featured on various media publications, including BBC, and have received a bunch of accolades, including the Princess Diana Award and Global Teen Leader 2019. So that's a little bit about my story.
Did you say a little bit? I need a second to take that all in. If this is everything you achieved at the age of 18, I can't wait to meet you in 10 years. And it's really inspiring to see how both of you started your journey from the same place and just what that looks like years later and months later. You're both examples of how something that seems simple at the time can be life-changing, not only for you, but for those you're impacting directly and indirectly. So thank you. Okay, Alyssa, tell us about the first memories you have growing up when you realized making a difference in your community was your passion. For anyone out there searching for their passion too, how do you find or recognize it?
So, as we all know, Seva plays an important role in Arta Rica, be it reciting a varo, doing voluntary duty, or even just being part of the Aga Khan band group. These are some of the things I was involved in from a very young age. I remember my parents always telling me that it's a blessing when you get to do Seva. I was also exposed to many different extracurricular activities like ballet, tap, golf, lambda, and swimming, all of which I still do. I enjoy every aspect of these activities, some of which became my passion, like art and golf. Passion for me is enjoying something beyond explanation. My passion for art led me to offer voluntary service at the Sapling Trust Foundation, which is a special needs school located in Mombasa when I was 10 years old. I was able to come up with simple art activities like finger painting, sponge painting, and potato painting, and worked with children with disabilities at the center. That's how I got to learn so much about the various disabilities and how you manage them. What inspired me was, whenever I visited these children, they were always happy and smiling, and they never complained. They welcomed me each time with love and affection. This is when I decided that I wanted to do something for these children. So for my primary years program, or PYP exhibition, I created awareness on disability in general while focusing on cerebral palsy in particular. Now, my personal project is a continuation of my PYP exhibition. Let me tell you something. Whenever you enjoy doing something, which is giving you endless happiness, recognize it and follow your heart. It can be anything: singing, dancing, sports, music, or even just talking to people. You'll be surprised where your passion can take you.
Thank you so much. And what you're saying rings so true. And I can relate. We are so lucky to grow up with the concept of Seva. And I think if we all take a moment to observe our lives and opportunities, we can see the things we are naturally good at and gravitate towards. The trick is in recognizing it and finding the value in it. So thank you for sharing that again. Okay, so Zian, You shared with me that you endured a traumatic experience at a young age with the consequences of dengue fever. I can imagine that had something to do with your dedication to making an impact. Can you tell us more about this experience and its connection to who you are and what you do today?
Yeah, definitely. So growing up, similar to Alisa, my family really encouraged the importance of Seva. So from a very young age, I was part of the Ismaili volunteer corps. I was part of the scouts group. But as I grew older, I was sort of losing that. Maybe that was caught up in my day-to-day routine, and I just felt like over time I lost it. And then after my first year at the Al Khan Academy, I was diagnosed with dengue fever. So I was admitted into the hospital for 1 week, and eventually I recovered. But from the point of getting discharged up to the next 3 weeks, I went through a phase in which I didn't have any control of myself. I carried out activities in which a normal person or me in my normal state wouldn't carry out. So some of the things that I did for those 3 weeks were in the middle of like prayer ceremonies. I stood up and started singing and shouting and dancing. There was a time when every time I saw a female, apparently I would just go and hug them. And for the next 3 weeks, I carried out similar activities. Eventually, I remember waking up on my bed, checking my calendar, and the calendar said it'd been 3 weeks, but I don't remember anything. So I obviously asked my parents what happened, and they explained to me the situation, but I couldn't believe anything. However, over time, I reflected upon it and came to terms with it. And I realized that going through that phase served as some sort of wake up call for me. I felt like it was some sort of turning point in my life because I just felt like I had no control during that phase. And life is so uncertain, anything could have happened. So from that point onwards, I took that experience as a wake up call and I started taking a lot of time in figuring out what my purpose is. And after the events that happened, starting my personal project, today I've come to terms with myself and I acknowledge that my purpose is to create social impact. And I want to create a legacy of that. I want to be remembered for that. So everything that I do today, including all the work that I mentioned, is all in line with that purpose. And that's what motivates me to do everything that I do.
Wow, thank you so much for sharing that with us. And it's so powerful to hear how someone turned their trauma into their transformation. You speak about how thinking we have control is actually an illusion. And I think many can relate to the idea that life isn't certain. So make the most of our everyday and how much that's connected to a sense of impact and legacy. Alyssa, on your journey so far, there were a few people, places, and possibilities along the way that have been pivotal to your success. I know on my own journey, and even in speaking to others about their stories as well, there always seems to be those few people or even what seem like simple experiences that end up being life-changing. I am often reminded that it takes just one step to change the direction of your life. Please help us understand who and what it was around you that contributed to your success.
For me, there are a few places and people that have contributed to the success of my project. Firstly, my school, the Aga Khan Academy Mombasa, because if it wasn't for my school, I wouldn't have been doing this project. Also, in the past years, there have been some amazing projects led by students, such as Solar Backpack and ASW, which have made outstanding social impact in the community, and I really look up to them, and I wish that I am able to make a difference too. Next, the special needs centers, who allowed me to volunteer during my holidays and also guided me throughout my personal project. Thirdly, Azan, who is using my hand splints and is helping me evaluate the success of my product. Fourth, the aunties, who helped me design my product, as well as taught me how to stitch, a skill that I never knew before. And of course, lastly, my parents, who have instilled in me the value of service from a very young age for guiding me, and always supporting me in everything that I do.
I'm so grateful to hear about all the community members who supported you. And I'm interested, they say things just work out for us when we're on the right path. Were there any divine moments when you felt like, yes, this is meant to be for me?
So initially, I was supposed to go to a tailor in town that my mom knew who was willing to help me learn how to stitch. But because of COVID-19, this was not possible. So my mom and I started looking for alternatives. And then we approached a family friend who had a sewing machine at her home, and she was very happy to help me. Now that I think about it, maybe it was meant to be.
Maybe it was. I have definitely had experiences like that in my own life. I feel like these fortunate accidents or serendipity happens when we are on the right path. We are somehow guided in directions we didn't even know existed for us. And for you personally, the point that really stands out is how the community around you and your parents recognized this path and supported you on it. Zion, you also had to build an environment around you to be as driven and successful as you are, and this took some effort on your part. As your purpose and vision for AASW became more clear, what did you have to change about you or your surroundings over time?
So before I went through that experience and I started my project, I was surrounded by a group of friends that ideally I would say may have been the reason for why I was never able to find my purpose. There were a group of people that I would say would always distract me, didn't have a vision, and personally, I think that had a great influence on me. But after I went through that experience and um, figured out what my purpose is, I had to be very conscious about the people that I surrounded myself with, be it my friends, be it people I spend most of my time with. So now I have a group of friends that are more purposeful, have a vision, people that can hold me accountable, and people that will do whatever it takes to help me get where I want to be. I've now surrounded myself with people that are older than me, people that are more experienced, mentors that can guide me and allow me to get to where I want to get to. But on a personal level, there's also a lot that I've changed. Primarily, I would say this mindset that I have right now has been so different from how it used to be before. Now I'm very conscious about my actions, where I'm going, what I'm doing, and I have this mindset in which I know my possibilities are limitless, and everything that I put my mind to, I can really achieve it. And I think those two major changes that I've made in my life have really allowed me to do what I'm doing today.
You really highlight this idea of growth mindset. And they say that our personal stories are our unique genius. And it's very inspiring to hear how you saw the opportunities in your own experiences. How do you now pay these lessons forward in your own life?
So before I answer that question, I'll explain how I pay things forward by something that I went through. So after my first year on working on my project, I remember doing a presentation in Kane, and one of the people that was there in my presentation, she really connected with it, and she said we should grab a cup of coffee. And I remember when we had that coffee session, there's so much that she taught me, and she really made me believe that my project is more than just what I thought it was at that time. So before, I never had a vision of creating global impact, making a difference in so many people's life. I thought it'd just be a school project. But what she really taught me was that there's so much more that I can do. So she really guided me step by step, held my hand to organize my first event, my first fundraiser, and really helped me like grow. And I think because of her mentorship, I am able to get to where I am today. And I now pay this forward to other young people. So over the last few months, I've mentored over 45 different people. I make myself so accessible to people whenever they need guidance and advice. I try and use my social media platforms to really share with people some of my experiences and things that I can teach them. And I try and do everything that I can to pay that forward, because I really think that sometimes You just require that one person, that one advice to really help you get to where you want to get to. So I try and be that one person for others.
Wow, thank you for that. And I see a bit of a mentorship opportunity right here as well. So I'm really happy to introduce the both of you. And what resonates about what you said is how we are already surrounded by people who want to support us, but the key is in recognizing and appreciating them and then scaling their impact in our own communities. So thank you for sharing that. Alyssa, what I love about both your story and Zion's story is that you've taken the time to understand the needs of the communities you're serving. In just a few short months, what have you learned from the impact you're making, and how will this influence your efforts moving forward?
Through my voluntary service at the center, I have realized that many of the children that come to these centers are from marginalized communities. They cannot afford school fees, leave aside assistive tools. Just an example, Sapling Trust Foundation has 70 to 80% of children coming from marginalized communities who have different types of cerebral palsy. I plan to start my own creativity activity service group when I join the diploma program, where I aim to teach students how to recreate the hand splints. To make my project more sustainable, I also plan to reach out to the different disability centers in Mombasa and teach them how to recreate the hand splints. This way, I am contributing to sustainable development.
So your insights from your experience are a great lesson for how sustainable development starts by strengthening existing systems, which is a major or the fundamental value of the Aga Khan Development Network. Community engagement is key. And similarly to this, Zion, on your journey with AASW, you've had realizations about your approach to impact that force you to observe, accept, and make changes. When I was learning about your story, a lesson that resonated from my own work in the development sector was your ability to recognize that just because you were making an impact didn't necessarily mean it was in the right way. This is a sign of true leadership, in my opinion, and something you've demonstrated early in your career. Can you tell us a little about what you've learned through AASW and how you've had to pivot professionally?
Yeah, definitely. But before I answer that, it's so nice to see that Alisa is going through the journey I went through a few years back. And honestly, it's so nice to see that she's taking the right path. She's thinking about sustainability. And I went through something like that as well. So when I started my school project, I created a reusable sanitary package with a local tailor that only lasted for 6 months. Over the summer break, I came to Tanzania and I worked with a local NGO, and I was able to support 22 menstruators. In that moment, that felt amazing. I felt like I did so much. But after gathering feedback and reflecting upon what I did, I realized that instead of solving this problem, I actually contributed more to it. What this means is that I realized that after the 6 months that the packages I made will last, the people that I supported would go back to the same methods that they used before. And in reality, all I did was create a dependency syndrome. So that's called for an opportunity to pivot. And I decided to change two main things. So the first one was before I shared that, I started a team and we're 7 to 10 people. And the first thing that we changed was our packages. So we collaborated with a local community-based organization in Mombasa. And with them, we developed a reusable sanitary package that will last 3 years, 100% biodegradable, extremely cost-effective, and also embarrassment-free. And we were tackling one of the issues that we got feedback about. And then apart from that, we also change our model of approach. So currently, first we go in, when we identify a group, we go in there, do a relationship building and a needs assessment session. So here is where we try and understand their context, really understand what's the root cause of the problem, and whilst doing that, build a very strong relationship with the group that we work with. After that, we have an educational workshop where we work with the menstruators and non-menstruators to teach them about reproductive and menstrual health, since it's usually not part of their school curriculum. And even if it is, it's usually very formal and one way. So in our educational workshops, it's a two-way learning process, And we have both formal and informal practices, I would say. After that, we have a stitching workshop, and this is a very important component for us. So here's where we teach them how to use, wash, and also stitch their own sanitary packages. We believe in the idea of not only to give them fish, but teach them how to fish. So by doing this, we're really empowering them to not only help themselves, but eventually also help their communities. Since it's a skill, it usually has an exponential effect. So if there's a group of 1,000 menstruators and we go in there and just help 10 menstruators, give them the packages, but also teach them how to stitch. These 10 menstruators can then take that skill and teach 10 other menstruators, and those 10 can teach 10 others. And then eventually, that ripple effect can give access to the 1,000 menstruators in the community. In the end, we end with a celebration and review phase where we assess the impact of our work, we celebrate with our communities, and that is how we've been able to support over 4,500 menstruators. Just this idea of not only give them fish, but teach them how to fish. In reality, we could have just gone to a supermarket, buy a bunch of pads, and distributed it to a group of people and been like, we've saved the world and be really happy about it. But it's really important to really see how and reflect how impactful your work is. Is it really getting to ground, and how long will it last? Yeah.
Thank you so much. I love this idea of celebrating impact. And I think the lessons you both shared are significant, especially for those working in the impact space. Unless solutions are informed by those we are solving for, we are potentially creating more problems. We have to be humble enough to recognize this and resilient enough to make the necessary changes. And you both are doing that. And it's even inspiring to watch how you're learning off one another as well. So thanks again. Now, there are likely people watching this interview, regardless of where or who they are, and thinking, I would like to be more like them. Honestly, I want to be more like you too. As your parting thoughts to those listening, what words of wisdom would you like to share? Alyssa, why don't we start with you?
So, for the youth, appreciate all that you have and always lend a helping hand. We are lucky to be born in a family where we have all the basic needs. Some people don't have that, and this is the reason why we need to be thankful and appreciate what we have. For the adults, keep the conversation going. Today's times are very difficult, where everybody is busy. It's important that we stay connected and talk to people. A good example is families having dinner together so that they're not only bonding, but it's also a good opportunity for them to talk to each family member and find out if they're okay.
Thank you. I will be definitely having more family dinners. What about you, Zion?
So I have 3 words of wisdom. First one that applies to everyone. I would really like everyone to take a moment after this interview and think about what their purpose is. I believe that no matter what age, race, gender, circumstance, background we come from, all of us were put into this world to fulfill a purpose. And I think there's no worse feeling being on your deathbed and having all this regret about not living a purposeful life. So I went through an experience of trauma, but your inspiration for your purpose could come from anywhere. It could be around you, in your family, in your community. And I'd really like everyone to just take a moment and think about what that purpose is. Why do they think they were put into this world? What is that legacy they want to leave behind? What do they want to be remembered for? And I think that's just so important for everyone to do. The next advice I would have is specifically for young people. I would say we are usually referred to leaders of tomorrow, future leaders. And however, I disagree with that. I believe we're not only the leaders of tomorrow, but also the leaders of today. So if you have something that you're passionate about, something that you think you want to do in life, start now. Don't wait for graduating from school or going to university or getting your first job or retiring, because then tomorrow never really comes. So if you have something that you're passionate about, start now, start today. And the last thing I would say is it's important to realize that all of us are all in our separate journeys in life. Some people get results earlier, some people get results later. However, it's so important to acknowledge that, again, you're in your own journey, and that you have to be patient and consistent whenever you're doing something. Just because something is not coming in one day, 1 week, 1 year, and so forth, doesn't mean that you're never gonna get there. So it's so important for everyone to just be patient and consistent, and eventually what you're hoping for will come and will be reality.
Wow, that's so wise. I love this idea of start now, but also don't be so hard on yourself, and, find patience in your process. I will definitely be writing these insights down for future reference for myself and others. And I thank you both for highlighting how the role each person plays contributes to our collective success. And so as part of my coaching workshops, I often incorporate rituals to help mark important moments and milestones. And I feel like after our very connected conversation today, something we can share with each other and the viewers before we close is an affirmation exercise. Are you familiar with affirmation exercises? Yes, no. All right. Well, this is something to remind us of the potential and possibilities that already exist for us on the days that we forget. And this affirmation can also become your daily mantra that you keep somewhere and meditate on every day. So let's fill in the following blanks to create our own affirmations as we move forward from today. The affirmation goes like this. Do you have a pen and paper? Yeah? Something handy to write on? Okay. To feel more blank, I will let go of blank to be more blank. I'll go first with an example. So to feel more connected to my purpose, I will let go of self-doubt to be more confident in sharing what I'm passionate about. Okay, your turn. Who wants to go first?
I can go first.
Okay, please go ahead.
To feel more comfortable, I will let go of my insecurities to be more confident.
Thank you.
And then mine is to feel more purposeful, I'll also let go of my insecurities. Wait, sorry. To feel more clarity,
Okay.
I will also let go of my insecurities to be more purposeful.
It's so interesting how interconnected all of our affirmations are. It just shows you that we're not that different, even on our separate journeys. No matter how far we've come, I love this idea that as long as we're taking steps in the right direction, we're moving forward. So these affirmations are proof of that. So for those following along with us, to make yourself accountable and track your personal progress, you can add a date for when you will start actualizing your affirmation and even list specific activities where you will practice it. And I look forward to the three of us keeping each other accountable through the coming months as well. Now, I'm so sad to do this part, but I wanted to thank you both so much again for inspiring us with your stories and who you are. It's been such a pleasure getting to know you, and I hope we have a chance to speak again soon. I wish you both so much success, and I already know I'll be hearing more about you and your impact over the coming months and years. You both have a fan for life in me, so thank you so, so much for today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.